Hey everyone, and welcome to the A2 Life Podcast, our podcast here at Ridgecrest, where we want to talk about discipleship and think about what it talks about in Scripture in Acts chapter 2 of how the New Testament church came together, loved one another, shared the resources that they had, and encouraged one another in an area of walking with Jesus and being used by Him. Today, James and I are excited to talk about specifically how to lead a great online group. And so, James, first off, how you doing today?
Man, I'm well. It's good to be back, man.
I know it's been a little while since we've been together on the A2 Life podcast. A lot happening in our world right now. We've said this multiple ways, but just a quick reminder, God's still God in the midst of all this. He can be trusted. He's faithful. And if you're out there listening to this and we understand there may be good days and bad days, and we just want you guys to know we're praying for you and here for you, and just, again, encourage you to keep the faith and focus in on the Lord and have people around you, as we've talked about on this A2 Life podcast a lot, to encourage you and to hold you accountable and to center all that in discipleship. And so, James, being now that we're in a little different world, we're social distancing, maybe we need to say more so we have the opportunity to we're physically distancing, but we still can socially interact.
Yeah,
now,
absolutely.
We're not interacting face-to-face. We're not interacting, in our normal environments in a lot of ways, but we still can connect with people, and we still can do things online. We still can do things through our phones and text messages and different things like that to continue to make disciples, to fulfill the Great Commission. And so today, James, we want to talk about this again, how to lead a great online group. So speak to that just for a second, get us our minds rolling on that, and then we'll jump into the details.
Absolutely. First, I want to thank Vic Green. He's a good friend of mine. We were actually in a cohort together, and talking about connecting. We live far apart, and we connect. And there's two other guys that are in our group as well. So it's a total of four of us, and he when this stuff started to roll out, the COVID-19 and everything, he ended up just sending us a text, and we kind of was talking to each other and so forth, and he had something out there. He said, hey, you guys can use this if you want to, and whatnot. And that's what I'm doing. We're using this and being able to shed light on how do we operate groups without being physically together.
Right.
Because we know this is a big transition.
Right.
And so that's what we're going to kind of talk about today. And one of the biggest things is platform. Okay, we got to pick what are we going to use.
All right, so let's just start back for just a quick second. So we're in a mindset now where we're not meeting physically on our campus, whether that's our connection groups, whether that's a RAD class, whether that's a life group, or even a D group, a closer knit group that we've talked about here before. So we're in that setting. So what we're looking at is how do we develop continual community in those groups, even though we're not coming together. And so the first thing on the list that we're going to talk about to begin with is, as you mentioned, is picking your platform.
That's right.
So making a decision on how you're going to connect through the digital world. So speak to that, James.
Yeah, I think there's a whole bunch of options that are out there.
Right.
Some good, some bad, quality, things of that nature. But picking your platform, that's the biggest thing, okay? Are we going to use Zoom, which is the biggest thing out there now,
Right.
is Zoom. A lot of colleges use Zoom to connect and so forth with their students, which is, it's a great resource and whatnot. But maybe you don't have the Zoom money, so maybe you have an iPhone.
Right.
And you say, hey, let's FaceTime, we can do a FaceTime together. Also, GroupMe. Someone asked me about, I was sending out something and they said, hey, we use GroupMe. GroupMe is a text messaging, thing, and they just text each other and just say, hey, how you doing, and so forth, and they're able to stay connected in that way. Prayer requests, things of that nature, and so forth, and we'll talk about that a little later on. But another one is Google Hangouts, and that's free. Google Hangouts, so you could use that, and it's free. Another resource that came across was Google Duo that you can use as well. So those are just some different platforms that you can utilize to enable yourself to connect with your groups.
Right. So I think when we think of platforms, first off, for those that are our connection group leaders in some sort of way in these different groups we have at our church, in picking that platform is thinking of your audience, those that are in your group, and trying to make a decision for what's the best way to connect with them. What's the easiest thing? Right now in the world of teenagers and student ministry, a lot of them are utilizing Zoom through their schools and through those types of platforms. And so for student leaders, Zoom might be an easy access. Now, you mentioned Zoom. There are paid versions, but there is a free version of Zoom as well. And so simply go into Zoom's website, and you can create an account, and you can do a Zoom meeting. It gives you a code, and you send that code to your group. You can send in a text message. You can send it out to them and say, hey, join me at 4 o'clock. We're doing one today at 4:30. So we've posted our Zoom Bible study codes to meet us at 4:30. And so Zoom is a platform. Obviously, if you have an iPhone, like you said, FaceTime, that's pretty simple. You can also do conference calls, so put multiple people on a phone call. GroupMe is a text-based thing. You mentioned that. I've had multiple of our connection group leaders talk about using GroupMe, where they send like daily, just quick encouraging videos, or one person has kind of sent a video for the connection group lesson, that kind of thing. And then you mentioned Google Hangouts is very similar. Google Duo is very similar to Zoom. And so all of these are online platforms to look at and to figure out what's best for your group.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's what's best for your group, because you may not be a Zoom person. You may not be a Google Hangouts person or a GroupMe person. You might be a Remind Me person, you know. And but find a platform. That's the thing. To find a platform to utilize that will benefit your group.
Yeah. Even, James, depending on different circumstance situations, just a text message, just a phone call, just a letter in the mail. Just trying to find ways to let your group know you're still there for them. You're praying for them. Your desire is to create this community. I know we've talked a lot online, but we still, sometimes online's not your thing, or it's not always easy, or everybody in your group might not be on there. That's kind of some of the things that we've dealt with student ministry as well. Not everybody has a smartphone yet. Not everybody is on Zoom because of their school's not doing it. But just figuring out a way, again, to create community and group, continue to feel loved, encouraged, compared to just being overwhelmed. This past week, Collins, my 6-year-old, received a letter in the mail from his connection group leaders, and it was just a quick little jotted note, and it just, brought a smile to his face.
Sweet.
And so just little things like that. Again, so pick your platform. Again, in our digital world, we mentioned Zoom, FaceTime, GroupMe, Google Hangouts, Google Duos, a Remind Text, multiple different platforms there. And if you guys have any questions as you're listening to this podcast about how to do that, please let us know. I had a text recently from somebody saying, hey, how does Zoom work? Like, we want to help you access to that, because in this world where we're social distancing, we want to continue to develop our spiritual life, and we want to help you do that. And so let us know if you have any questions. And so, James, any other thoughts on just beginning this conversation about continuing community, and then specifically picking platform today?
I think that's it for this portion. Next time we'll talk about communicating that plan and so forth.
Yeah, exactly right. And so what we're going to do is this going to be kind of like a 4-part podcast, a little shorter podcast to help us all understand kind of some details on how to do this. And so thanks so much for checking out the A2 Life podcast today. And if you have questions about this, please don't hesitate to let us know. We always end the podcast by asking our questions that are centered around our mission. Who are we reaching? How are we being built up? And then who are we building up? And then lastly, how are we connecting to the mission and purpose of God? And God's still the same, and that mission's still the same in the midst of the world we're living in today. So again, thanks for checking out the A2 Life podcast. We look forward to our next time together, where we'll talk about communicating the plan in the time we live in.